Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on homeopathy with our beloved Dr. Pachegaonkar. Namaste, sir. I would like to continue more on this COVID problem since we have discussed a bit about it, and I feel that in the world there is so much fear. And what have you done with your patients through homeopathy exclusively?
Yes. The whole world went into panic because people hardly had experience with this sort of infection. Because earlier SARS varieties were not that virulent. They were confined to a small group of people who were exposed. But this time, the epidemic, in this pandemic, the on mass scale it started affecting. And really, initially, when the picture became very difficult situation in Italy, the mortality rate was 8 to 10% of affected people. And this is quite a high percentage.
What is the normal mortality rate for a virus?
If it is below 2%, we consider it is mild, not that fatal.
And it
But
was
this
8 to 10% in Italy.
But then we started studying the reasons, and one reason came that Italy has a senior most proportion of population, because the elderly people population is much more in Italy, and somehow people started attributing it to that. But then we have seen even young people started suffering, and such a ghastly situation it was in Italy that they had to prefer, like, there are three patients and they can provide support only to two. So they had to prefer which is younger, who may have more longevity, and they had to just allow
the older people
to die.
Yes.
So such a difficult situation, and that too in such an advanced country. Italy is well developed country,
Yes.
and there it happened. So the whole world went into panic. Same time, there was a group of 19 visitors coming from Italy, and they were tested positive in New Delhi, and the whole group was kept in isolation, complete isolation, but they were given good food to stay and all, but they were not allowed to mix outside. And these people shared the experience that they just followed the healthy lifestyle and all of them recovered. In the course of 15 days, they became negative.
They were all younger people.
Really younger people, yes,
people.
of course. Coincidentally, they were all young people who had come, but they were positive, and there the medical fraternity also started gaining confidence. Okay, it has to do something with the own immunity. And then in India, see, the mortality rate is just below 1.5.
In America, it was quite high, no?
It was high, but relatively more. It was 3 and odd percent initially, but now that percentage also has come down. But this is known in every epidemic or pandemic. What happens initially, if it is a new strain or new variety of virus which is infecting people, then healthy people naturally develop antibodies, good immunity. And once they develop the antibodies, that process of developing antibodies starts getting communicated. Like what we conveniently call it herd immunity. It is all hypothetical, they say, but really it occurs. How it occurs, we don't. Like in one group of people, if they develop antibodies with much difficulties initially, later on people start developing antibodies easily.
Yes,
So,
this is the herd
immunity.
Yes,
is what we
immunity.
call it. So there was a lot of hue and cry against the lockdown or the restrictions on the people's movement. So there is one group which from very beginning was pleading that only vulnerable populations should be put under lockdown. They should be isolated, like elderly or too tender children
Ah,
or elderly people.
so not the general
No,
population.
rather they were of the opinion that the younger generation, public in general, like healthy component of population should be allowed to mix. They should be allowed to contract the infection and tide over it and develop antibodies, and that will help community to build the resistance. But that time they were telling this is hypothetical herd immunity and all, and you can't expose your anyway. See, people were getting exposed because it's not easy to lock down the whole world. It's not easy. And even if you lock down, we have seen the experience that in first lockdown, the epidemic almost was under control. And the second wave, it was terrible in India.
Yes.
Second wave
Yes.
was terrible. So that means lockdown is just a temporary solution, just to postpone the spread. It's not the remedy. So that logistically you get geared up and be prepared. And in these cases, what happens? The experience of the people, that actually guides everyone, even the doctor community. They also were initially so much confused about the spread of this and all, that the isolation centers were created, the COVID centers were created, and people were wearing that kits, what we call PP kits, and they themselves were so not comfortable with that. They started suffering in spite of all these precautions. And there are people who are taking just minimum care, like washing hands, wearing mask. Then, if someone has fever or some other symptoms, they were not allowed to go inside, and they were quite healthy. And there is one hospital in Pune who started practicing from very beginning with COVID patients. They were having that Jalaniti every 4 hours. The whole staff, doctors and caretakers, nursing staff, everyone used to have that Jalaniti, and they were taking vitamin C in abundance, like lemon juice, and having proper sleep and proper lifestyle. And they had those, they call it warriors, frontline warriors. They had lowest incidence of COVID positive, and whoever suffered, it was a cakewalk for them. So easily they recover. So we have seen varieties of people where, and mainly as you said, the fear element has really taken toll. Because with the fear also people used to go in panic, and because of that they used to suffer, and even the casualties occurred because of panic. So the fear situation now has subsided. Now see, the incidence of COVID has not come down much. In India now every day we are having on an average now 40,000 cases. But there was a period when we used to have more than like 300,000 cases
Yes.
every day, fresh cases. But now incidence is there, but the mortality rate and casualty rate is much low, and people are comfortably recovering. Like we are in our ashram, elderly sadhak who has Parkinson's like neurological disorder. So he was confined to house. He is confined to house, and he just fell down one day. And because he fell down, he was to be admitted in nursing home for care because he used to stay alone. The doctor insisted that we should have COVID test done, and then only we'll allow. So the COVID test was done and he turned out to be positive. Everyone went into panic and nothing. He was in isolation for 15 days and he recovered and he came back. With all Parkinson's, the medicines are all, he's 83,
83.
and finally he recovered. So mainly he did not go into panic. He took it easily. He said, if COVID is positive, so what? And he did recover. And he has come back home
No,
after
no
isolation.
treatment?
Yeah, he was giving symptomatic treatment, not for COVID.
Ah, okay.
Symptomatic treatment he was given. So it is all, fear is a major contributing factor for casualties. I won't say COVID comes because of fear, but definitely the sequelae, the bad sequelae are because of fear.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the people you have treated?
Yes. See, there are varieties of experiences. We have cases where they started taking the homeopathy from very beginning as preventive. They did get COVID and they went through the whole symptomatology and they recovered without any other support. It was only just homeopathic treatment, isolation, good nourishment, and they have recovered. They came out to be even negative within 8 to 10 days, which generally occurs even if you don't treat. But naturally, it is known that even without any medicine, also COVID cases recover. But there are instances where people realize that they should take homeopathy much later. And there are cases, and one case I would like to quote is this person in Ahmedabad was admitted in hospital and he needed oxygen. His oxygen saturation was getting depleted, and he was being given oxygen at 6 liters per hour rate. And there we started homeopathic treatment, like our remedies which we worked out with the earlier patients. So we gave the camphor 30 initially, then zincum metallicum, and then the same sequence was followed in drop doses. And within hours he started improving. Then only 4 liter per hour pressure was needed, then 2 liters, then intermittently they were removing oxygen and he was fine. And in 3 days he came out of ICU. Without oxygen he was managing. Even the physicians who were attending, they were telling his son, Deep, your father has improved. Surprisingly, he has responded very well. And we were never hopeful of this type of miracle. And he recovered, and within 1 week's time, his oxygen saturation, everything recovered. Of course, along with that, we gave sort of deep breathing exercises, pranayama, and auxiliary treatment along with homeopathic treatment, and the person recovered. There are instances where I just was given a call that so and so friend of ours he was 68. So he has developed symptoms and he has actually gone for testing. What would you give? So I rushed. It was Sunday, so I just rushed with medicine. And coincidentally, just 10 minutes earlier, he was taken to hospital. 10 minutes earlier, he was taken to hospital. And then, when the medicine followed, the hospital people said, we won't allow. And they did not allow. So, from ward, then when his oxygen saturation depleted, they switched him to ICU oxygen. Then they put him on ventilator. And in 2 days' time, the person died. But the hospital authorities did not allow homeopathic doses to begin. Every now and then they were counseling that it's a grave prognosis, there is a bleak chance that you would improve, but they did not give homeopathy in spite of relatives' request.
Is this widespread amongst hospitals?
It is, but with this experience, there is a case where the person was admitted in Nagpur hospital and the relatives approached us for homeopathic treatment. And then they asked that hospital is not ready to give homeopathy, what to do. Then we suggested you don't tell them that it is homeopathy. Anyway, the prognosis is grave as per their advice. So you give in the name of Ganga Jal. And from home they were sending water where we used to give homeopathic drop in that. and that Ganga Jal was allowed by allopathic hospital. And in about 4 days' time, the person recovered and his oxygen saturation came normal.
And it was very serious to begin with.
Yes, they are giving the prognosis that it's a bleak chance that his lungs are so much infiltrated. They call it, the count was 18 out of 25. So it's a grave prognosis. Above 15 count is a grave prognosis. It's a severe degree of infiltration. And this person recovered. So patient has written that to me. You see, this trick worked, and then we gave Gangajal. And finally, homeopathic medicines are just, a drop in water is fine for the whole day. So that way, Gangajal was allowed. So they played the trick and it worked. So varieties of experiment, but I won't be surprised later that maybe after 1 or 2 years you will have so many findings that the COVID infection has been so much beneficial to the patient. We have to just see, like see in other time, say the same time before 3 years or 4 years, if we calculate the period and see the mortality with other reasons, say heart trouble or malignancy or any other illnesses, definitely there would be so many benefits also coming out of this COVID situation.
Interesting.
Because what happens, any crisis in the system, see, if I have gone through COVID, definitely it's a crisis body has sailed through for 15 days or 20 days by developing antibodies and all. And this crisis many times becomes a beneficial event for other ailments which would have been there. So this is a known phenomenon. Like we have seen measles, chicken pox. There a lot of literature is there where the measles, chicken pox, the incidences have been helpful in general. They build your immunity in general.
Interesting, because I've heard that measles or chickenpox often leads to shingles.
Yes, yes. But shingles is something again the same type of virus which remains dormant, and if there is opportunity it comes out. But even shingles also, I have seen many people who go through it very easily. Just 8 days they have some eruptions coming up, some peripheral neuritis like symptoms, burning, and they recover. So shingles also is not something which is to be worried about.
But my sister had it and it was extremely painful for her.
Yes, in some people what we call post-herpetic neuralgia comes. And that sometimes bothers for the whole life. Periodically the neuralgic pains surface. It's a rare sequelae. But there are many people who are benefited by that.
So COVID could benefit other potential ailments.
100%. This hypothetically, so it should. Any crisis. That's what we call it, like what we call hygiene hypothesis. Like if you are too much hygienic, then you don't build your immunity. Same way, the incidence of COVID, if you are able to tide over, especially healthy people, definitely it will be in the long run beneficial event. It's a good exercise for your immune system to develop immunity against the new virus.
What about the new MU virus we're hearing about in England and US?
See, again the same thing applies.
Same thing.
Like this COVID-19 also is again the SARS variety. SARS variety did come before some 7-8 years, or periodically it does come. So same way this virus also. Now there would be again theories that this is out of this mutation, out of that mutation, or it escaped through this laboratory experiment, or like there would be, it would be unending. But definitely our approach will have to be the same. So far as possible, prevent yourself, from getting down with that. But if it is inevitable, fine. One should be able to face it, develop immunity, and go ahead with it.
How much does the sun, how much of an effect does it have in curing COVID?
See, I have seen people, even many allopathic doctors also have prescribed that they empirically prescribed vitamin C, multivitamins like B12, B6 and all, and vitamin D3 with it.
D3, yes.
D3, because vitamin D3 helps in maintaining the immunity and vitality. And you know, sun is the best source for vitamin D3, especially the ultraviolet B rays with the intensity of 290 to 320 nanometer. If our skin is exposed to this variety of ultraviolet B rays, then our body forms vitamin D3 in precursor form. And the best part with this vitamin D3 is if you give vitamin D3 in chemical form, there would be toxicity. And toxicity, like if it goes beyond its limit,
if you take too large a dose.
Yes, above 100 unit level. There the toxicity is worse than deficiency. But with this sun, whatever amount of D3 potential we develop is in precursor form. So there is no possibility of toxicity because it is in abundance in precursor form. So whenever the requirement is there, the body goes on supplying it and there would be no toxicity. So this is the best benefit, like in the form of vitamin D3, and there are even other benefits also. Like you know, when there is a clear sun, the fungus doesn't grow. The organisms, you know, these disease organisms also can't grow. Even this COVID-19 virus, it can't survive much under sun. So definitely, sun is the main source of energy and vitamin D3 for the people.
These hospitals who have prohibited homeopathy, are they changing now after they see what is the results?
Yes. What happened, I'll tell you here. One lady who is administrative officer in medical college, she herself started taking homeopathy the moment she realized that she is exposed to COVID-19 infection. Because with her colleagues and all, they had to move above. They were compelled to move above because she was main person in running that hospital. Being administrative officer, she's like procurement of equipments and furniture and laboratory equipments. Everything was her domain. And when she realized that she is exposed to this COVID-19 infection, she started homeopathic treatment. And her two colleagues, they landed up in ICU for oxygen and all, and she was fine in house. She was in isolation because of exposure. Then the medical college people said the isolation alone is not enough, we'll have a test, antigen test. And they detected that both her husband, who is engineer, also is positive and she also is positive. But then they said, no, we won't allow to be in isolation in your house. We would like to screen you whether you have some symptoms. They screened everything and they said you are fine. So you can be in home isolation. And she developed little bit of diarrhea, then fever, cold, cough, and she recovered. After recovery, she suggested her dean that, Madam, I have gone through my husband and without any allopathic medicine, we have recovered, we are now negative. So why don't you allow, we have 500 bedded COVID ward under the medical college. And why don't you allow homeopathy to be given? Then say, see, it is not scientific. It is not scientific. So I won't allow. Then she said, "Then what? See, in front of you, my two other colleagues already are having so many complications of it. Even last 1 month they have not yet recovered. 15 days they were in ICU taking oxygen and all. And I have recovered, same infection, same time, same age. She's around 56, 58. Then what is the point? These cases, it's a scientific thing. You conduct experiments. What is there? Nothing wrong in homeopathic. Then she said, see, it is a risky thing. I can't take decision. It's a collective decision. And they did not allow. They did not allow. 500 patients, the same medical college was treating, and the lady who is administrative officer, she recovered with homeopathy.
My God. Well, thank you so much. This has been very enlightening. Namaste. Namaste.